once a year, every December now for ever since we've been going live, which I think is year 4 effective this year. So that we got to mute because that won't work, right? So thank you. Just some technical stuff we're working on back here. And one of the things I forgot to do in my opening comments was I forgot you were coming, Jill. But we're going to start with you.
Yeah.
So folks, this is Jill Hallie-Gauthier. She runs our payroll department. So, when you get paid weekly, she is the young lady responsible for that. So everyone wants to like Jill, right? So go easy on her tonight. But what we're here to talk about is the new program and app where news went out earlier this week, and it was effective, I think December 13th, was it Monday, that our folks now have access to pay sooner if they so choose, right? It's their choice. So let's talk about Branch, which is the name of the program. If you want to just share a few minutes as to what we did and why people should be excited about it.
Yeah, so we partnered with Branch, as Todd mentioned. That's what the app is also called, which gives you the availability to access up to 50% of your eligible wages as you earn them. So as we get information into the payroll application, we do feed that over to Branch so that you can get access to a certain portion of that earnings before the pay date. Again, it's a completely voluntary item. You would just have to scan. I think in lots of locations, we've pushed out information with a QR code. So just take your smartphone. You can scan that, and within about 90 seconds, you're signed up. You can do it to a digital wallet. If you so choose, you could get a Branch Visa card. Again, you don't need it. You could do through Google or Apple Pay. You can use it that way, and you can get access to that pay. And then anything you do take, we will payroll deduct in the future. So it's a quick, simple way that if you do have those emergencies that may come up that you need pay before your next pay date, it is available. It's a fee-free if you do it those ways available. So it was just a nice option for us to be able to put out there for associates.
Awesome. And just a couple of comments, because this type of pay activity is becoming more prevalent.
Correct.
And you'll hear it called, kind of on-demand pay or, pay ready, some things like that. And we just felt like, based on feedback we had received, to the extent possible, and if it works for you, right? Like Jill said, it's completely voluntary. Utilize it. It is fee-free. You've earned the money, and so we're going to give you access to it. So it's out there. It's available. I've downloaded the app just to see how simple it was after taking a picture of the QR code, and it shows up like that. So I certainly would encourage you to use it if that's what fits your lifestyle or your family's lifestyle. Anything else they need to know, Jill?
No, I would just say there's lots of information on Compass. So if you do go to Compass, I see it's still out there on the driver compass. If you also do go to resources, where we do have a lot of the driver pay, we did put a lot of the information in there. You'll now see there's an actual on-demand section in there that'll have frequently asked questions. The QR code is there also. So if you do go there, you can scan that and get it. There's a video that we have out there in how to download the app and how to request pay. If you do have questions, certainly reach out to payroll. We're happy to answer any questions you may have on that. So we're just happy to be able to offer it. So if you would like, take advantage of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that with us. All right.
Okay.
That's what we need. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. All that stuff.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
As Jill exits, we're going to bring up our other two guests. So walking into camera view now is Dan Simons. And this is Jake Vandeloo. So I'll do kind of a bit of an intro, but then you guys get to introduce yourselves in a bit more detail so folks get to know you. So Dan leads our maintenance area. He has been with the company. I'm going to give you credit for 23 years because it's January when you hit your 23rd anniversary. So I'll give you credit for 23 years. Has been in a variety of areas. I'll let Dan explain kind of his experience and then how long he's been with the maintenance organization after I kind of introduce his partner in crime, Jake Vandeloo, who leads our engineering group and is responsible for our equipment. And Jake, I'm going to give you credit for 17 years because it's only a few days away, right? I think December 27th when I was looking earlier today. So one of the few people who we've let start between Christmas and New Year's. But that will be 17 years ago this year. So thank you both for being here. We appreciate you taking the time. I know that what we find every year is that when we have you come and visit, drivers love to talk about equipment. They love to talk about maintenance, and so it's always one of our best represented sessions. And I know typically we try to get you in here a little earlier in the year, but we're kind of getting into that winter weather. Didn't feel like it in Wisconsin today as it was close to 60 degrees, but there's a bit of snow and some winter weather around the network, and so it'll give us an opportunity to talk about some of the things we need to do for drivers to prep for winter. So with that, we're going to start with you, Jake, right? We're going to start with Jake. So Jake's going to do a bit more of an intro of himself and then talk a little bit about what's been going on in the equipment world, and then we'll turn it over to Dan for a few comments in the maintenance arena, and then we're going to take your questions. So, as we go through that, I'm removing the hat because it gets kind of hot after a bit, and rather than have your host pass out over here, I think I'll just take this off if you guys don't mind. All right. So with that, Jake, all yours.
All right. Well, I don't think I have much to add to the intro. You hit it. Been with Schneider for 17 years. I was actually with Schneider 8 months before that when I was in college. So technically it was April. So it'll be 18 years in total in a few months here. So all my career I've been in equipment and maintenance, which I very much enjoy and appreciate the opportunity to continue to do. It's interesting. You mentioned we normally do this earlier in the year, but we're doing it at the end. That sounds an awful lot awful similar to how we usually get equipment. We usually get equipment earlier in the year, but we're getting a slug of them at the end of the year. So, as you look at 2021, probably our biggest challenge has been getting the new equipment into the fleet as quick as we'd like. We continue to try to introduce new features into the fleet. It's been a little bit more challenging than usual. So a couple of features we added this year. We've added battery disconnect switches now. We've had a problem with jump starts. Not a big surprise. We'll talk a little bit about that as we move along here. The battery disconnect gives us a great opportunity to cut power from the batteries to give the driver the best chance to restart. We did have a bit of a hiccup in the middle of this year. I'm sure everybody's heard of the semiconductor issues we've been having. It's forced us to move away from certain features that we felt were important. But we felt it was more important to get the new equipment into our fleet, and we felt that created a better driver experience than asking a driver to run their old truck longer. So it's a little bit of a unique year. I'm sure if anybody's been paying attention, just given the challenges with component shortages, we've had to get really creative to try to keep the trucks coming and to keep trucks operational. I'm sure Dan will touch on that and the impact it has on maintenance. But we've introduced battery disconnect switches. We've expanded our use of the battery-powered HVAC. We were with the APUs, the diesel-fired APUs. What we found is the reliability of those are just really challenging. The battery electric has been performing pretty well for us. We continue to spec air disc brakes. That's getting much more prevalent within our fleet. I think that the P4 in general, the new Cascadia in general, has been received really, really well. We've got some new Navistars coming this year with the Cummins engine. It's the big 15-liter Cummins, which has been performing really well for us. And just a couple changes on the trailers too. We introduced some short trailer tails, the rocket tail. We've had pretty good test results from those. The nice thing about them is they don't require any effort or on the driver's part. When you close the doors, they deploy, and when you open the doors, they collapse. We're in the process of deploying a strobe light on the rear sill of the trailer. I know that's caught some attention. That one has had really good safety performance in our testing. So we continue to look for opportunities to integrate those into the fleet. It's taken a little bit longer than normal this year. It'll continue to take a little bit longer next year as we deal with the semiconductor issues and the other component shortages, but we'll continue to fight the good fight.
So one of the things, and just to play off one of your comments, Jake, one of the benefits of being large like we are allowed us to take delivery of a higher percentage of our trucks than some others in the industry may have had the opportunity to do. So certainly we would have liked to have received them sooner. We would have liked to receive them in the manner that we thought we were going to, but we all know that there were supply chain issues. And so maybe you talk about the lag we experienced, but the fact that we were still able to get the vast majority of the trucks that we had ordered this year.
Yeah, it's a great point. This year I think we've been very fortunate. We will end up taking the majority of the equipment we wanted in total. It just won't all be in 2021. So we certainly are going to see some spillover into 22, and then 22 is going to have its own unique set of challenges. But I think we were probably hit the hardest, I would say around June is when it really became evident we were going to have some pretty considerable disruptions. And not just on the truck side, on the trailer side as well. And that's really, it's gotten better around September, October timeframe. But now we're still taking delivery of trucks now that were actually built in August. So that ripple effect will continue. We expect that'll continue probably until April, hopefully not, but could be as late as May of next year as we see the completion of our orders for this year. But we're just thrilled that we're able to get the quantity that we are getting. If we could get more, we would get more. But I think we're certainly making the best of a very difficult situation.
Yeah, I would say on balance, just given the supply chain issues we've seen kind of across the network, that what we were able to accomplish this year is a credit to you and your team, and certainly appreciate your leadership through that, because we stayed after those OEMs and worked with them to make certain that we could get as much of that equipment in as possible. Certainly appreciate your leadership in that regard, so thank you for that. All right, so now we go to, we got the new equipment.
Yep.
Somebody's got to maintain new and old, and that's you and your team, Dan. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, we are partners in crime. So he buys them, I fix them, and then he sells them.
Yeah.
So that's how we work together as a team, and we work real well together. So so to your point, I've been with Schneider for almost 23 years. All that time's been here in Green Bay, and I've done just a slew of different things. So I started as a dispatcher right down on the floor here, and did a sales role for a while, did a stint in maintenance earlier in my career, and then I've been in this role for the last 3 years, and really enjoy working back in maintenance, and enjoy coming to these events as well. So thanks for having us tonight.
Awesome.
So from a kind of a maintenance setup of kind of what's happened over the last year, it's certainly been an interesting year. So I'll kind of tag on to what Jake brought up on the equipment delivery side. Obviously, we're seeing similar issues on the parts side, right? So we've got to fix the equipment that's in the fleet right now. And just like the OEMs are seeing issues on their side with building them, we're seeing issues on the parts side. And I'll tell you, our parts team has just done a fantastic job this year in being proactive of buying parts early and often, and keeping us as stocked as we possibly can be with parts to minimize the impact. Now, it hasn't eliminated the impact, because there's certainly been an impact, but I'll tell you, it could have been a lot worse if we weren't as aggressive on that side. So really pleased with where we've come from on the parts side. What that also leads into is we're certainly seeing challenges from a vendor support perspective as well. So just like the industry as a whole, there's labor issues on technicians right now. So that's where we've seen a lot of challenges in the past year of when we send a truck to a vendor, it's taking 2-3x as long as it typically would. So try to combat that, we're obviously adding more technicians in-house, and we've had some really good success of netting up technicians in our shops and trying to keep as much of that in-house as possible to minimize that delay time. So that's probably been our biggest challenge of working through the year is just how do you manage the parts and just the productivity. The other thing I wanted to hit on that I'm really pleased with our development this year was on our driver ambassador role. So one of the things that we heard loud and clear with our drivers, especially our new drivers, was, boy, you guys threw a lot at us in training. Your training is fantastic, but then I get in the truck and I still got a lot of questions, right? So we saw that as an opportunity to say, all right, how can we help in maintenance? And what we do is with new drivers on an assignment, we'll have a shop technician walk them through kind of the bells and the whistles of that truck, just so they have a good understanding of, hey, how does this work? And boy, I heard about this, but I'm not sure how that works. So that's what we're trying to inject into the process, just so we can get further ahead and really help improve that driver experience on that initial driver assignment. And then through that process, what we're doing is saying, hey, if you got a how-to question, here's the number for the service advisor. Just give them a call and they can help you problem solve and get you moving on the road. And then if you have a breakdown, use the SEMI app, and then we'll work through that process on a breakdown to just try to help give some additional resources to drivers as they have questions on the equipment, and then what to do from a breakdown perspective.
Okay, very good. Are we seeing, just a follow-up question, the SEMI app, we've really done a lot to kind of promote it, let's use it, take advantage of the technology. Are we seeing progress there? Is it taking hold? What kind of plug do you want to make for it? Let's talk a little bit about that.
I'm glad you asked that. So certainly my plug for the SEMI app is to use it more. So we've seen some incremental improvements on usage, but not to the level that I would have expected us to see. And just for clarity for the group, the SEMI app is just a portal that you can fill in your issue that you're running into that goes directly into our SEM group. And we actually have a live chat function that we have in that as well. So we can question back and forth and have a dialogue and really help problem solve quickly. And it just helps prioritize work and get you service quicker by being able to use that app. And we've got some opportunity, obviously, to do more there in that space. So I'd love to see more usage on that. It just helps speed up the process as a whole when we use that app.
Yeah, and certainly, don't take Dan's comments to suggest that we're going to ignore phone calls.
Absolutely not.
Because we're going to answer calls, we're going to answer the app. But I will tell you that, there are opportunities to use that chat functionality to expedite your process. So think about that, take advantage of that, try it. I think you'll like it. I've heard good things about it from the drivers that have used it in the past. All right, so with that as kind of our introductory comments, why don't we get into the questions? So we're going to start with David Buck. David is one of our Ride at Pride drivers. In fact, his truck broke down this week while he was participating in Wreaths Across America.
I'm well aware of that.
And so that was David.
That one back up.
Right. And I will also tell you, and you guys know this because you see my notes every Facebook chat, I get this question every year. So this is not a new question, but one we can talk about. How difficult is it to check the ambient temperature sensor that determines when the truck will idle? Well, in Maine last week for my load pickup for Wreaths Across America, the dash thermometer showed 17. When I started the truck within 15 minutes, it showed 22 degrees, while ambient air temp was 13. Truck would not idle, used the bunk heater, but batteries didn't last 10 hours without shutting down the inverter and my CPAP. No other trucks were around mine and everything was shut off or unplugged. So let me just kind of set up the issues for some drivers that may not be as familiar with it as we are. Is our ambient temperature sensor reads 20 degrees on kind of the low end and 70 degrees on the high end. And if the ambient air temperature that it's reading is either higher than 20 or lower than 70, it won't allow the truck to idle. And so what we find is that sensor sometimes isn't congruent with what our drivers see as the air temperature based on the thermometer in the truck or a thermometer, at the truck stop they're at, et cetera. And so there's kind of disconnects. And so let's just kind of talk about how that technology works.
Yeah. I would agree in the frequency of the questions. I agree with everything that you shared. This is a very difficult one for us to solve. I would tell you that our intent is to try to manage idle where we know the truck is capable of performing. And what I mean by that on the cold end is we know that we won't have an issue with fuel. We won't have an issue with restarting the batteries. That temperature range, I would say comfortably down to 5, but we raise it to 20 to give a little bit of a buffer. And part of the reason we do that, one is we certainly want to make sure the driver's comfort is in mind, but we also know that it's an imperfect system. So the way that the system is designed today is the sensor in most trucks is on the mirror. That can be subject to the engine's own heat that it generates. And as it comes through the hood, it can influence that sensor, which is why we try to offer the bottom end in a range that we still have a lot of safety factor. So we know the SPR heater has tremendous capacity. And we know working with our fuel vendors that fuel wouldn't be an issue as far as restarting the truck. On the flip side, in the summertime, we know that 70 is probably closer to 60, 65 because we're also reading warmer than what the outside air is too. So don't get the question as often of in the warm weather, but in the winter weather, it's certainly sensitive. I will tell you that we are trying to improve the system. One of the areas that we've been pushing for is we'd love to try to integrate a telematics-driven temperature, so that way there's no ability to interfere or influence it. If any of our OEM partners are on the Facebook chat, I would encourage you to take that feedback. But it's definitely a challenge for us to get the perfect situation where we don't have that interference. But we try to do it in a way that we have enough safety factor that the driver's still gonna be okay. As far as the CPAP runtime, that's another very important topic. I don't want to discount that. And there's two things that can cause, or three things really, three options or concerns. One is there might be additional excess hotel loads on the batteries. So if there's a lot of other things that are drawing the batteries down, that will certainly reduce the ability to make it through the night on the CPAP. And I recognize that's not always the case. Second thing would just be general battery condition. And the maintenance shops could easily test the batteries to make sure that they're operating. I don't know the age of the truck. Do you know how old that specific truck is?
David's is the 18? Jen?
The 18. So if those are original batteries.
His is the 18?
Yes.
Yeah, 2018.
So if those are original batteries, it's certainly, we could take a look to make sure that they're still appropriate for his application. But the third thing I would offer is, in the past, we've always offered a bag kit. And a bag kit offers a separate, completely independent battery. It typically has the capacity to run the CPAP independently, aside from idle, and then it recharges when the truck is driving down the road. So CPAP is very important. We want to make sure we treat that very seriously. But as far as the idle, that's almost a separate issue. I don't know if that answers the question there, Todd, or if you have anything you want to add to that.
The only thing I'll add is it's really important to understand what Jake said about we are working on this. So we are aware of the issue. And certainly want to calibrate it where the accuracy is better than some of the things that we have seen. To Jake's point, we understand that there's some variation, and so we set it at a temperature where we knew that there was some play, if you will, in regards to the safety factors associated with that. The CPAP or the load on the inverter can add additional complications. So be aware that we continue to have these conversations and want to stay in front of that. Please continue to provide feedback because that helps us, from a calibration standpoint as well. So appreciate the question and the feedback, David. Glad you're back up and running, and certainly thank you for participating in Wreaths Across America, along with a number of our other drivers, 2 of our other Ride of Pride trucks. We really appreciate you doing that.
Todd, maybe if we could spend a couple additional minutes just talking about jump starts, because it kind of ties into
To the inverter load and all that other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And clearly that's one of the areas, especially this time of year, that we start to see more and more jump starts. And, I think it's important to understand that, Jake hit on the battery cutoff, but also just how to power the battery powered HVAC. So maybe if you can just spend a few more minutes on that, just so there's crystal clear clarity on, hey, here's how you can manage that better to avoid that jump start, because it's a lot of time wasted, obviously, when that happens, and we want to try to prevent that as much as we can. So maybe if you could spend a few more minutes on exactly how to arm both of those systems, so the group knows.
And if I get too long-winded, you gotta cut me off, because I can talk for a long time. Well, I shouldn't be
Well,
asking you this, because you probably talk more than I do. So.
Well, except for that one buzz we did. So, yeah, go ahead. I'll cut you off if I need to.
So, you throw that out there knowing I can't respond.
Yeah, exactly.
The battery disconnect, one thing that's very important on Navistar and Freightliner trucks, and it's important to understand it is on both of them. We went standard with this feature in 2021, so 2022 calendar year. The important thing there is making sure that the batteries are charged before you flip the switch. So if you just got a jump start, we want to make sure that we either have some runtime or at least enough idle time to make sure the batteries are charged. The new AGM batteries, although they have much longer capacity, it takes a lot more work to get them charged up to that level. So we want to make sure the batteries are in a healthy state of charge, but when we flip that switch, it cuts most of the power coming out of the batteries. I will tell you, there are still a couple of unique circumstances where we have to keep circuit powered up that circumvents that, but it will generally, you will be good for up to 2 weeks if you flip that disconnect switch, if you know you're going to be down for a long period of time. Obviously, not every truck has the battery disconnect switch. In the Navistar truck, in the Navistar International synonymous, the switch is inside the cab. On the Freightliner truck, it's actually in the back of the cab around the bat wing. There's just a dial down by the air and electrical. For optimized idle, again, both the Navistar and the Freightliner have the start-stop capability. We started speccing optimized idle on all trucks with battery-powered HVAC starting in 2020 model years. And then we expanded it to include team trucks, and then we expanded it further to include intermodal trucks, and now I think the bulk trucks have it as well. So most new trucks are going to have this specific capability. And the primary function, it will restart the truck when the battery voltage gets low. It is probably the safest way to ensure that your truck starts coming out of a weekend, because you're not at the mercy of what was my battery condition when I shut the truck off and triggered the battery disconnect switch. It will also start the truck if it gets too cold. So it monitors the oil temp, which is currently set at 10 degrees. If it drops below 10 degrees, the truck will automatically start. It'll warm the engine. It'll charge the batteries. It'll run for a minimum amount of time to make sure everything's good, and then it will shut down and continue to monitor. So that's a very effective tool that I think, if used correctly, will have a significant impact on your ability to come out of home in the weekend, in the wintertime, on your ability to stay productive and not have those maintenance disruptions. On a Freightliner, the optimized idle is activated through the dash, through the ICU controls. On the Navistar, I'm not as familiar. I think there's a switch on the dash, but we have some videos that actually walk through the instruction on it. We've got a YouTube channel that walks through multiple different capabilities within that system. And all of our driver ambassadors have the links, they're QR codes that take you right to the video that walk you through how to do that. And those will also start the truck on battery voltage or on oil temperature if it gets too low. But two very powerful tools that I think will set drivers up for success and not have to deal with the app or the phone call, which is the best case scenario right now.
Good. All right, next question. This comes from Bob Larrabee. I know Jake knows Bob. With current PM intervals, we're only getting one wash every 8 to 12 months. We used to get them about every 3 to 4 months. Well, some of the OCs have truck washes, not all of them do, and those that do are often closed due to temps or out of order. Is it possible that the Blue Beacon washes could be disconnected from the PMs and made so they are available more often? I suggest quarterly based on the last digit of the truck number, trucks ending in 1, 2, 3, and then 4, obviously. So, Bob, here's the way I think about the Blue Beacon coupons, and I've said this at previous Facebook chats. Because of the PM interval being stretched for a longer period of time, we are, averaging maybe 1.2 washes a year if you look at it kind of over time. So I encourage drivers, if they feel like their equipment needs a wash, to work with your driver team leader, because they have the ability to discretionarily provide you, a Blue Beacon coupon. Now, I know some DTLs are doing it. I know others I've heard are not. And so, you know, what Bob may be asking for is, hey, put a little more rigor, a little more structure on the program. So I think it's fair to say we'll take that back, look at it, see what makes sense. But, you know, I've always been an advocate for the Blue Beacon washes and equipment that looks good. And there's a balance there, right? It's not like we're going to get them washed every 2 weeks, but probably more than once a year makes sense as well.
Yeah,
So
just another additional comment. In the locations that we do have truck washes, we did recently upgrade our truck washes. So if you went to our truck wash prior, I think we did that in 2020. If you haven't been to one of our OC truck washes since then, it's a different experience. It should be a much better experience at our 4 locations that we do have truck washes at.
yeah, and Marcus Hammond, if you're out there, we don't have a truck wash yet in Harrisburg, so I'll save you for asking that question. And remember, again, you'll be the first to know when we do. All right, next question comes from Ed Lomas. What will happen if and when parts and repairs become critical when there is no supply? So I think we talked a little bit about kind of what we do to stay in front of that, but if you want to just kind of reinforce what you said, because sometimes they don't hear the intro that came in and ask the question, and I'm a true believer in sometimes you got to say things multiple times for the message to be clear.
Yep. Yeah, I'll give you my opinion, Jake. Add in on your feedback that you get from the OEMs on this one as well. You know, it is a bit of a game of whack-a-mole right now, right? So it'll be this part is the issue this month or this quarter, and then it'll be a different part in the next couple of weeks, right? And so it's a constant game of trying to figure out the best solution. And you know, what we've done to try to stay ahead of it is, you know, obviously we have tier 1 and tier 2 type providers that we work with, and we're working with everyone that we can to ensure that we have the parts available. So with few exceptions, there hasn't been a time where it's like, we don't have it. And even in those examples where that happens, we work really close with the OEMs to figure out, all right, what else can we do to try to get parts available or change things to make sure that we can work around that needed part. So to date, we haven't run into those issues where we just didn't have it available. You know, will we get to that point? I certainly hope not. But you know, you kind of need almost every part that you have on the truck to have it work. So it is a bit of a game of whack-a-mole when it comes to our parts supply. But today we've just done a great job of managing that effectively. So I don't know if you want to add any OEM comments.
The only thing I would add, aside from even the OEM, is because we have so many maintenance locations, we are constantly shipping from this state to this state to this state. We've spent a lot of money in expedited shipping this year, more than we've ever spent before. So that's part of it. The other part is a lot of times we will completely skip every layer of the distribution process and go right to the manufacturer that makes the part and just try to beg, plead, borrow, whatever we can do to get those parts coming. Another thing is, you know, we will take off of accident units if we have to. So we will, if we have a salvage truck, we have used more parts than we've ever used before. Sometimes if this truck is down on a big repair and this truck is in a small repair, we might take the part off to repurpose it. So we have 1 truck sitting instead of 2. So we try to get very creative in our effort to have minimal disruption of the driver, but it is absolutely a challenge. And I think you hit on the other key pieces. It's a significant challenge for us right now.
Good, thank you. All right, next question. This comes from Noah Carlson. I have friends that have them in their cars, can't brush teeth, chew gum, have cough medicine, or other various things before starting their vehicle. Do you think that Schneider will lose drivers over the breathalyzer pilot? All right, so yeah, thanks for asking the question. Here's what I'm going to say. First of all, I would suggest that you don't believe everything you see on social media. Then I would suggest for those of you that saw that social media post, because I'm pretty sure that's what you're referring to, Noah, I would recommend you go read the article, because most of the people who commented on it had not read the article. They just assumed that the headline and the YouTube video that preceded it were accurate. So here's the real story. Let me kind of set this straight. The state of Virginia received a federal grant to harden technology around breathalyzers in commercial vehicles. Let me start with this comment. If there is anyone out there that would argue with putting someone behind the wheel that's been drinking in a commercial vehicle, shame on you. That's what this is all about. We received a request because of our safety performance, which we're damn proud of, to help the state of Virginia test this technology. We embrace that. It's 8 freaking trucks. Get over it. We're going to help the state of Virginia harden their technology. This isn't technology that we're putting in Schneider trucks. And if you can't get behind that, I can't help you. All right? So that's really what's going on. Anyone that wants to know more about it, feel free to call me. I'll walk you through the decision-making process and why we were excited to help the state of Virginia. All right? We're done with that subject. Thanks for bringing it up. And I think, Noah, because I know you brought it up on purpose because you knew it'd get me excited. So thank you for bringing it up. All right. And I don't need any more comments, right? So we'll just leave it at that, okay? All right. This comes from Jason Gunderman. Todd, you have a DBL threatening to shut off fuel cards because their drivers didn't meet the 85% compliance. Are you okay with this practice? You know, it's interesting, Jason, because I got tagged on that particular social media post. So it mentioned that I had been tagged. I was out at a function away from work last night, and so it was later in the evening when I saw it. And when I clicked on the tag, it said the post had been removed. So I don't know exactly all of the detail around it, but if I could get some more information around where that was coming from and what in fact was said or happened, you know, we're not in the practice of shutting off fuel cards. You know, we have a job to do here. Clearly, fuel compliance is a part of a bonus program. You know, the bonus program is out there for drivers to earn, and we should be having conversations around helping you earn the bonus because it's additional compensation, not you know, using the stick approach versus the carrot approach. So I just need to get a little more understanding so I can follow up because that post was not available that I had been tagged on last night. So, you know, I appreciate the insight, and if I can get some more information, just send it to my email and I will certainly follow up. Well, Marcus is with us. So Marcus, you've got the word on the Harrisburg truck wash. Marcus is asking, what's the deal with mirrorless tractors? Great setup, because I shot a buzz earlier today with our Vice President of Safety, Tom DeSalvi. We shot it at 1:30. It will be going out to trucks next week with an update on the Mirror Eye technology. So we've been testing the technology in a small pilot for 4 years. In fact, I had the opportunity 4 years ago to drive the first prototype that had the technology, and it was fascinating to me to see what that particular vendor was doing with this Mirror Eye technology. Over the course of the 4 years, we are now in generation 6 of the technology. So it really has advanced over that 4-year period. And when I say a small pilot, it's small. I think maybe a half a dozen to a dozen trucks that have it. We're going to expand that. And we will expand it to 200 trucks across 6 different locations. And so that's kind of the next step, is to get it on more trucks, get more driver feedback. The drivers that have it have really helped us get it to the stage it's at now. They like it. We like it. So we want to expand and see if this is something that makes sense for us to deploy in a much bigger number. So that's kind of what I'll call the update as it relates to what's going on. I don't know if either of you have any commentary on the technology as you've seen it or had to repair it, et cetera.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that the field of view, the visibility is so much better with the cameras because of their ability they're tied into the steering angle, so they will actually pan as you're turning, as you're backing in. You get a lot of feedback on windows getting soiled from road spray. We don't experience that on the cameras because the display is inside. In many cases, if we're able to shrink or even remove the mirrors, it provides a better field of view at intersections. So we remove a blind spot. There's a minor fuel efficiency advantage by taking the drag off, but there's a lot of reasons why this makes sense. I can tell you this is gaining a lot of traction with truck manufacturers for future product strategy. And I think it's going to be a matter of when, not if. And I think it's great that we're trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah. And if you're part of the 200 truck pilot, just know that as the pilot takes place, it starts with MirrorEye technology and mirrors. So it has both. And then as you get accustomed to the MirrorEye technology and comfortable with it, then we go ahead and we remove the external mirrors for you to use the MirrorEye technology. And there you get some benefits from MPG and the like that Jake was referring to. But you won't go into a pilot kind of cold turkey, without the use of your mirrors. Okay. All right. Next question. Is it possible for maintenance to give a more predictable ETA of repairs in the future? So why don't you talk about our kind of ETA process, Dan?
Yeah, great question, Jason. Thanks for asking. Clearly, this is an area of continued opportunity for us and something that I'm certainly passionate about, of making sure that we are as accurate as possible in giving you that estimated time of repair, because it's important for you and it's important for us, right, from a planning perspective. So we actually are doing some work now on that of, hey, what's the best communication method when we get into that. So currently we have this texting option through M5. It's a little clunky and it's not always the easiest thing for us to execute against, but there's some other options that we're exploring to figure out, if there is a delay, if there is an issue, how do we best communicate that back with the driver? Because some stuff just comes up right as you're into a repair, and that may get a little bit longer than anticipated. So we're looking at a couple of different things to try to get better visibility, but better updates to the fleet when there is a change to that initial ETA that we give you.
Okay, thank you. So this is a follow-up from David Buck. Where is the live chat function? Didn't see it on Sunday. I don't know what you're referring to.
I think it's for the SEMI app.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm assuming. So
okay.
If that's the live chat function you're looking for, if you're looking at the screen on the app, it should be a little.
Oh, he was broke down on Sunday. So now, yeah, I'm piecing it all together. Yeah, you dealt with him, so you know what he's talking about. Yeah.
So in the upper right-hand corner, I believe it is, there's like the little, looks like the what do you call those little circle with the
thought bubble.
The thought bubble
kind of
type of a deal. So if you
yeah.
click on that, that'll be the chat button, and then when you get a chat back, it'll prompt you with a one that you have a message coming back. So it should be in that upper right-hand corner in a little thought bubble type of a format.
Okay, awesome. Now I know what he's talking about. All right, our first set of shout outs. Wow, 45 minutes into this thing already. Man, time flies. All right, so hello from Winter Haven, Florida. Brian Surtew is with us, a regular. Looks like we have a lot of regulars here just based on the names I'm looking at. Hello from Carlisle, that's Steve Tyner. Hi, Steve. Greetings from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Michael Ritz. I would imagine continuing on the secret mission you've been on for all of 2021. Thanks for being with us, Michael. Sebring, Florida, Ivan Cruz. Hello and Merry Christmas from Sunbury, Ohio, Bob Larrabee. You're pretty far to the west there, Bob, all the way to Ohio. Hello from Wichita, Kansas, Richard Koshin, another one of our regulars. Hi guys, checking in from Lebec, California. Happy holidays. Chris Hawaii Bisa. He's one of our jet set intermodal guys. So been hanging out on the left coast. I would imagine you've had Mr. Morning buy you some breakfasts. I'm sure he owes you. Good evening all from Lincoln, Illinois. Gary Vogel. Good evening, Todd and crew from West Memphis, 2/3 of the way to San Antonio for Reach Across America. That's David Buck. Thanks, David. Hello, guys. We're just wiggling down the highway. That's Chris Foshi and his wife, Jenny. I'm certain with him, and if it's Chris's name on the screen, it means Jenny's driving right now. Season greetings from Edwardsville, Illinois. Let me just talk a little bit about Edwardsville, Illinois. They had a pretty significant tornado go through there over the weekend with damage to the Amazon warehouse, which is right near our operating center. You can see it from the operating center, and to know that we had a little bit of debris and we lost power for a few hours, right, in one of our 3 power grids. Thankfully, everyone was safe on our side. Unfortunately, 6 people passed away over at Amazon. So our prayers go out to the folks in Edwardsville, because I'm certain, many of our associates know those folks who were impacted over at Amazon. And then Denise is with us, and she's a special thank you to Jake for helping out in the Facebook group. So Jake, thanks for helping that crew out. And my experience with Jake is, whether you're in the Facebook group or not, he likes to help people out. So we appreciate that. And Denise is one of our best advocates out there. So, and if drivers are in trouble, Denise will make sure they get to the right people within the organization. All right, so now we're back to questions from Daryl Marshall. I'm having issues with water leaking around my lower windshield front dash area. All right, Dan, any quick fixes till he can get to a shop? Put a towel in there?
Yeah, bring it into the shop, right? So that's obviously something that we want to look at right away. Water and electronics typically don't work real well together, so our trucks have quite a few electronics on them. So certainly would like to have you come into a shop as soon as possible so we can get that looked at and addressed.
Okay, so Daryl, get on that SEMI app, let folks know what's going on, and we'll get you kind of squared away, I guess, unless you just go straight to a shop. All right, speaking of Denise, her truck, which is a 2022 P4, which I think you're pretty familiar with, is losing power on small hills.
I think it's a 2021.
Is it a
I think
2021?
it's a 21.
Okay. Well, I know you know better than
I think
me.
it's 51280. I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the number. So one thing that we have done is we recognize that in an effort to maximize fuel efficiency, the manufacturers make changes to, I'll use the generic term, predictive cruise control, to anticipate terrain changes. So it will allow a predictive speed up coming into a hill. It'll slow as it climbs the hill. It'll coast at the top, and then it will allow it to accelerate slightly over on the downhill to capture that momentum. What we found is these are manufacturers' recommendations. What we found is on the climb, sometimes that change, that slowdown in power climbing the hill, it wasn't satisfactory to the drivers. So we actually went in and we tightened that window so it didn't slow down as much as it climbed that hill. So it sounds like that's consistent with the feedback we've gotten before. So if she were to get to a shop, we could take a look at those parameters on her particular truck. It's referred to as IPM, Intelligent Powertrain Management. So we look at the IPM parameters on her specific unit and make sure that we adjust the decline rate so when it climbs the truck, and that's more appropriate and a better driver experience for it.
Yeah, and the other thing that we should just be mindful of as it relates to Denise and the other YRC drivers is they're pulling doubles. And so I don't know if that has a further impact on what they might experience, but the fact that they're they have 2 trailers behind them versus 1 may have some impact on our IPM as well. So, did you hear that, Denise? Get to a shop, let us look at it, we'll check the parameters. My guess is you're gonna be in Indy sometime soon, so,
I think she's in Indy right now.
okay, yeah, so we'll get it taken care of. Sometimes Denise is in Indy and Jeff's not, so, her team partner, as they get ready to meet up, that's kind of their meeting point, so we'll have to make sure the truck is there as well. All right, so next question comes from Brian Serkiu. I drive a day cab on the intermodal Orlando, Florida account, and we have 2 trucks that won't idle, including mine. Both trucks came to us from a northern state. They're miserable to be in when it's a sunny 90-degree day. On-site mechanics told me they aren't allowed to disable the idle cutoff, even though the rest of our trucks are allowed to idle. I'm wondering if they're old Park Smarts.
I'm wondering if they were incorrectly included in a different cab configuration that was updated over the air. Because they're both day cabs, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be Park Smart units in the day cabs.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I'm guessing they got a sleeper parameter set loaded into them, and that should be a relatively easy fix. If we can track down the 2 truck numbers, we can easily take a look at what those parameters are and get it corrected.
Okay. Did you hear that, Brian? If you're out there, send in those 2 truck numbers so we can get it looked at. Okay. All right. Jason Gunderman. Todd, where are you going? Moving to a better opportunity or retirement? Well, I am retiring. So if folks haven't heard, I announced my retirement September 30th, which 6 months after September 30th, which will be March 30th of next year, I am retiring. So, some might argue that I think my wife and children and grandchildren might argue that's a better opportunity, right? Because I'll spend more time with them. So yeah, after 37 wonderful years here at Schneider, I will be retiring effective March the 30th. I'm not going far, so I was born and raised here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We will continue to have a home here in Green Bay, and so I'll just be cheering for Schneider outside of the organization as an alum versus as an associate. So having said that, for those that were here when I kind of announced it, we introduced my replacement for this, Robert Soto. Starting next month, January and February, will be my last 2 Facebook chats. Robert and I will co-host the Facebook chats for the first 2 months of next year, so people will get accustomed to that transition and familiar with the name and the face. But Robert is in the process of leaving Southern California, so that's where he is located now. He's a 26-year veteran of Schneider and relocating to Green Bay. He and his family will actually leave the day after Christmas, so December 26th, and he's trying to figure out, hey, what's the best route to get from SoCal to Green Bay, Wisconsin? What's the prettiest route? He's got some time because he's on vacation as he's kind of traversing over here. And so they want to take some time to see some things. But if there are folks who have any preferences to the best way to get from the Los Angeles area to Green Bay, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll have Robert take whatever route seems to be the most interesting to him. I think his wife and children might prefer to stay on the interstates, but hey, Highway 66 might work too. So we'll see what makes the most sense. But if you want to give Robert any variation from the southern route to the northern route, he's all eyes and ears. So something to look forward to next year as we have Facebook chats. You'll get to meet Robert, and as we get ready to kind of transition this to him and I move off into retirement. All right, so this is from Patricia. Having an issue lately with the tablet turning red with the orange triangle on a daily basis. Do you know why this is? I am not familiar with the orange triangle issue. Are you, Jake?
I am not.
Okay, Dan?
I'm not.
I believe the first step typically is to call tech.
Yeah.
Most of those tablets, the software, the behind the scenes typically is run through tech. And then if they'll do their troubleshooting, if they determine that it needs a component replacement, they'll put a request in for service, and then it comes to the maintenance organization where we execute that request. So.
Okay, so, yeah, and if there's a little more detail, or you can send me like a screenshot, that will help me follow up, and I can run some interference with tech, or maybe get you a quick answer. I'm happy to do that. All right, next question. How far away is Schneider from driverless trucks? And so I'm gonna have you answer this, Jake, because you're doing a lot of work in that area, so we can talk a little bit about that. And then, are there plans to become a fully electronic fleet in the future? We're not there yet as it relates to fully electronic, but we've made significant progress in the area of electrification as well, and Jake's involved in that. So why don't we just kind of give people an update as to what's going on in those two areas, and what our recent experience has been.
Yeah, on the driverless trucks, I will tell you. First, I'll just emphasize, if and when it gets here, it is not intended, and we've had multiple conversations with many suppliers, it's not intended to impact drivers anything but favorably, right? So we're trying to stay connected with technology that could change and create a more positive driver experience. Take out those longer times away from home and make a more
It's a pickup and delivery system,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's very analogous to intermodal, right? The driverless truck hauls freight just like a locomotive does.
So that said, I don't know when it'll come. I do think that we will see it this decade. And I will tell you, and the technology that I've seen, they're making impressive strides from a technology standpoint. One of the trucks around had over 40 sensors that are looking forward, back, all directions. And the best part about that, Todd, I think, is in an effort to try to get to this, I think it's making the truck safer. I think we're learning things that make the truck safer in the environment where it's operating today. So it's a difficult question to answer, and certainly we wouldn't ever do anything that we didn't feel kept public safety and best interest. Because I will tell you, there are definitely differences in providers in this space. So we're trying to understand the landscape right now. So we're definitely in the exploration phase and understanding what's out there. I do think we'll see activity in that space this decade, whether it's completely driverless, whether it's from one city to one city, from one parking lot right at the off ramp to a parking lot right at the off ramp. I think this is going to be very small steps to begin with. I don't think we're going to see much outside of those ramps, a relay point here and a relay point here, and drivers will absolutely be part of the process on both ends. But it's exciting to see technology evolve, and it's exciting to see with safety, it's the classic every ship raises in a high tide, right? And I think right now that what we're learning from a safety standpoint is fantastic. So.
Well, it's interesting because the whole concept of the driverless truck, boy, we started talking about it as an industry shortly after the turn of the century. I mean, the early 2000s, you started hearing about driverless truck, and what I heard then was, hey, it'll be more prevalent 10 years from now. And then, you got into 2010s, and the comment was, hey, it'll be more prevalent 10 years from now. Well, we're 2 iterations away from when we started talking about it. And clearly there's been advancements throughout that 20-year period so far. And we keep getting better from a safety technology standpoint, to your point, Jake. We're learning some really neat things. And remember that when Jake says something this decade, there's still 8 years left in this decade, right? And so I think we're getting closer. We know we're getting closer. But it's gonna be baby steps. And you're never gonna see a light switch approach in situations like this where public safety has to be taken into consideration. So we're gonna do this right. We are clearly out in front of this, right? So we are working with multiple providers because we wanna make certain that we are part of the solution and utilizing the very best technology. Okay? Electrification, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think electrification definitely has a future. I think there's certainly challenges associated with electrification. I'm assuming most of the folks on this call is aware that we're doing a fairly large scale pilot out in Southern California. Right now, our plan is to have 62 battery electric trucks out of one location, 50 of them through the CARB grant, which we announced back in early September, late August, early September. Really excited about what that means for us, what we're going to learn from that. But we're also learning it's really, really difficult. That fleet alone, we're pulling 5 megawatts of power just to operate that fleet. And so the limitations that are going to prevent all trucks from becoming battery electric is, right now the range is still a significant challenge. So these clearly are a local configuration type strategy.
Yeah, and all 62 will be used in a local configuration.
Yeah, typical daily miles are 155 typical daily miles that we're putting them in. Weight is another significant challenge. The more range we get on the trucks, the heavier the trucks become. They are significantly heavier than a diesel truck. Cost is a significant challenge. Right now, they're still about 3 times the price of diesel. The infrastructure to charge them is significantly difficult and expensive and hard to work with utilities. So, and the time to recharge them can create a disruption. Where today, the best description I've heard is a diesel truck is a Swiss Army knife. In the future, that is a very specific, unique tool that works in one application. So I think there's going to certainly be some challenges to large national deployment. I definitely think that will continue to grow in the very specific application where we're using them, which is in that local, typically heavier congestion. But it's exciting. It's an exciting technology, and we're happy to be part of that.
Yeah, because we learn from that.
Yeah.
And you will learn more with 62 than we learned with 1, right? And so that's what I think is really kind of neat and exciting. Not that I want to bring the breathalyzer thing back up, but I'm going to, because, those are opportunities for us to learn things and to help the industry. And that's the same example here. By having 62 of these and 50 of them through the CARB grant, the industry is asking Schneider to take a lead and help develop technology, and we should all be very proud of that. All right, so we're actually past 7 o'clock. I can't believe, man, it's after 7. So we can take a couple more questions before, because it's getting close to your bedtime, right, Jake? Yeah. And you were out late last night. So, all right. Why do we have so many bad order trailers? What's the process for getting them fixed? I'll make a comment before you answer that, Dan. Is I don't know that we have necessarily any more bad order trailers. It just becomes much more apparent when we're as busy as we are, like we are right now.
Yeah, fair comment. So we're no worse or better than we have been from an out of service equipment perspective. So a couple of comments on that. One, obviously the DVIR is critical for us to understand that there's an issue. And so just for clarity, when you guys fill out a DVIR, that will come into our system, and depending on what you fill out from a repair perspective, it'll say, all right, that's out of service or that's not out of service. If it's out of service, that feeds into my team to say, all right, here's all of the out of service equipment that we have in a market. And then we make some decisions of, all right, what's the best way to get that repair done? Obviously, we're biased and we want to do our own repairs where possible. And that'll be my second point here in a second, where if we can send one of our service trucks out to do that repair, we're going to do that first and foremost. If we don't have a service truck, an orange Schneider service truck in that market, then we'll look for a vendor solution to send out to that unit and get that unit back up and running. But the key is we need to have visibility to it. So if we don't have that visibility through that DVIR, then we don't know that we have an issue with that trailer. So that's my ask of the group, is to continue to fill out your DVIR. The second piece that I wanted to add to that is that service truck approach. So over the past year, we've added 36 service trucks to our Schneider service truck fleet. Some of those have been replacements for some that were continually broke down. Some of those were additional service trucks that we had added to different markets that we see some high volume trailer pools that we could impact with our Schneider technicians first and foremost. Next year, we're going to do a similar approach and add another 23 service trucks to some key markets that we're seeing larger trailer pools that we can get after with our own Schneider technicians. So that'll be our approach to try to fix as many as we can as possible with our own service trucks. Where we can't, we leverage our vendor solutions to help with that process.
Very good. All right, our last question. It's like one for you, Dan.
Sure.
Typical time a driver will need to wait for SEM to send a vendor out to fix us when sitting on the side of the road.
Yeah, great question. I'll answer it in a couple of different points. One, obviously, side of road is our most critical. So whenever we have a side of road call, that goes to the top of the list. We have a dashboard that everyone in our SEM group can see on their computer screen, but we also have actual monitors on the wall that indicate, yep, we've got a side of road situation. And those are the first first priority for us to find a vendor solution for. So once that happens, we're going to react as quickly as possible. One of the challenges that we're seeing, and I talked a little bit about it in my opening comments, is typically in the past, we'd go to our first vendor, maybe our second vendor if that first vendor isn't able to come out. Recently, we've had to go a lot further down that routing guide, upwards of maybe 5 or 6 calls before we can get a vendor to get out to that side of road activity. So that's part of the challenge that we're seeing right now on a time perspective. Is it's a little bit longer than it historically has been because of some of those issues that we're seeing. But just understand that is our clear first priority. Is if you're side of road, it's all hands on deck to make sure that we find a solution, because clearly not a place that's safe for you to be. We're going to find a solution as quickly as we can. And then we kind of work backwards from there on, all right, now you're not side of road, but maybe you're at a customer under a load. All right, that's going to be our next priority to get after. And then the third priority is, hey, we get a call and, hey, you got a trailer in this lot that needs a repair. I'm not underneath it. I'm not under load. That'll be our third priority to get after from the time perspective. So each one has kind of a different expectation on how quickly we can execute against that repair.
Okay, very good. All right, we're going to close with some shout outs. Some other folks who are with us tonight. Hello from myself and Walt, one of our teams in Kent, Washington. That's Dawn Cottrell. Thanks for being with us, Cottrells. Hello from Appleton, Kurt Ditto. Kurt, glad we could connect a couple of weeks ago. He runs a dedicated account that comes into the Green Bay area, and that lunch offer still stands if we can make the timing work. And I'm buying. So happy holidays, Todd and crew from Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Marcus Amon, who had asked a question earlier. You were right. Denise is in Indy, so she's here in Indy. Thanks for being with us, Denise. Shout out from Southern California. Great info. Glad to be with you from home. Glad you're home, Barney. Thanks for being with us. That's Barney Johnston. Hi, Todd, from home in De Pere. James Anagnost. I stumble over that name monthly, James. And I hear you're coming in-house to be one of our instructors for cat training in Green Bay. At least that's what I've heard. Don't know if that's just a rumor or if it's true, but thank you for doing that. As we talked last month, we need folks to help us in that regard. And then the last one for tonight, hi from the Gary OC, where they have the best breakfast burritos and omelets in the network, according to Bob Hamry. Don't know if that's necessarily true or not, because I haven't had the breakfast burrito or omelet at the Gary OC and can't compare it to anything, but I'm going to take your word for it, Bob. So thanks for being with us and sharing your feedback. All right, that's it for tonight. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you being here as always. So great information. Happy holidays to you, to your families, to all of our drivers, your families, no matter what you celebrate during this time of year, because there's a variety of different celebrations, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, Festivus, whatever you choose to celebrate. Please do it safely. Take time to appreciate your family, your friends. Catch your breath. It's been a busy year. It's been, an odd 2 years, if you will, because even today we can't say we are successfully on the backside of the pandemic. As winter has come, we've seen cases rising. So we still gotta be smart about how we handle ourselves in that regard. And we're gonna continue to do great things as we move into 2022. And as I said earlier, when the question on my retirement came up, is I can't wait to see what's in store for the company, because they're gonna do, because I'll consider myself a we forever, are gonna do great things as we move into 2022. So thank you for your contribution in 2021, a great year. Please drive safe, and we will see you in January.